Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. So I love the lighting so much from this angle that I decided to film from this angle using the UV, the sun rays, basking in the sun, and it's inspiring me. Before I get into what this video is about, I want to talk a little bit about my weekend. So on Friday, I decided to take the kids to Indigo Chapters, a bookstore, and we decided to each buy a book or two. For me, 3, 4. And we had a good time. The kids went and chose their books. Beautiful. And on Saturday, it was my son's birthday. My baby boy turned 4. And can you believe it, guys? He's gonna be starting school. Like, that means all my kids will be in school. I have a 4-year-old. I have a 6. No, she's 5. 4, 5, 7, and 8. Yeah, I was busy. But that means they will all be in school. And freedom for me and my man is coming. Like, independence is coming. Like independence for Congo now is coming into my household, where my kids will finally be a little more independent. So I am excited about that. I'm excited about the next chapter of our lives. So yeah, and besides the fact that it was his birthday, we also had a wedding to attend, which was a good wedding. It was nice wedding. So yeah, so that's what I did on the weekend. And on Sunday, I was too exhausted to film, because that's when I actually do my filming on Saturday, and then on Sunday, that's when my man does the editing. But if I don't get to do it Saturday, usually I would do it on Sunday. But again, as I said, I was too exhausted to film. But now it's Monday, and you know what? I like filming on Monday. I think it's a cool idea to do it on Monday. So there you have it. So as I said, I have quite a things to share with you guys. I have a mini book haul, and then I will be talking about the books that I have read so far. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. First off, let me show you the books that I bought. Alright guys, so this is the mini book haul, and I just want to also tell you guys that I'm actually working on a video of another unboxing of all the books that I bought. And what I've been doing is buying 1 or 2 or 3 books every occasion that I get, and I've just been accumulating all these boxes of books. So get ready for it. It's gonna be a huge book haul. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so first off, it is the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. Here. Believe it or not, please do not throw rocks at me. I don't know who Frederick Douglass is, but I'm gonna learn about who he is and tell you more about him. Probably not. I'm thinking I'm gonna keep this for the month of February next year. But essentially, it is a classic story of agonizing circumstances and enduring hope. The narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass is an eloquent account of a young man's life under slavery and his eventual escape. Written to promote the abolitionist cause, it became the best-selling fugitive slave narrative of the era. This autobiography is a powerful reminder of the brutality of slavery and the terrors that African American people were forced to endure. Yep. So I'm gonna keep this for the month of February. Next, we have The Underground Railroad by William Still. Now this is gonna be again interesting. I mean, I could add it in my TBR for some time in the next few months, but I want to keep these books for the month of February. It says, like millions of my race, my mother and father were born slaves, but were not contented to live and die so. First published in 1872, William Still's collection of accounts and letters is a powerful testament to the trials and tribulations of fugitive slaves who used the Underground Railroad, a secret network that enabled them to escape from bondage. A conductor for the railroad, Still was the son of a fugitive slave himself and a campaigner for social reform. This abridged edition of the Underground Railroad brings to light the terrors experienced by the thousands of African Americans who sought a better life in the northern states of America and Canada. Wow. Well then, I like that even more because it has Canada. Incredibly moving, it offers a fascinating insight into this vital aspect of 19th century American history. Whew. I am so ready for it. I am ready to devour it. Next, we have this thick book, not that thick, but thick enough, and it's Voices of the Harlem Renaissance. Wow. Originally published as The New Negro, An Interpretation. Introduction by Troy Johnson. Alain Locke. I believe it was written by Alain Locke. Okay. So, Alain Locke's The New Negro Anthology introduced the variety of artistic and cultural expression of African American writers, poets, and artists to a wider audience. Almost 100 years later, this treasure of an anthology continues to accomplish the same task. The Harlem Renaissance marked a period encompassing the entire 1920s when African American artistic expression and output grew dramatically. The Harlem Renaissance also witnessed a period of published African American expression that was more political and bolder than any previous period since the abolitionist movement of the mid-19th century. Voices of the Harlem Renaissance is not just a time capsule of African American life from a century ago. It is a foundation to help us understand not just African American culture, but American culture. The Harlem Renaissance was a period of intense African American affirmation and self-expression. The Voices of the Harlem Renaissance displays this intensity and creative ferment in the writings and artwork of 50 novelists, poets, thinkers, and artists such as Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and W.E.B. Du Bois. These voices have reverberated throughout the American literary landscape for almost a century. No aspect of our cultural expression since then is free of their influence. You damn right. For those familiar with the genius of these creative artists, this book will be homecoming. For those new to the grand tapestry of African American literature, it is the indispensable point of departure for a profound and remarkable adventure. Well. Ooh, these just sound so exciting. And lastly, it is this beautiful book. Look at it. Look at it. Can you see it? Isn't it beautiful? Okay, it's titled African Myth and Tales. Ooh, I love this. I mean, I had to jump in it. You know, anything with African and African American, you best believe I'm gonna jump on it. The Epic Tales Collection. Africa, south of the Sahara, is a land of wide-ranging traditions and cultures. This collection offers a hefty cross-section of evocative tales from the Yoruba people of West Africa to the San people of Southern Africa. Legends of the gods, origin stories, trickster exploits, animal fables, and parables, each one entertaining and exciting, are all featured here, from Obatala creates mankind to how Anansi became a spider. Now I love that because I had been reading Anansi the spider to my kids when they were little young, so I'm excited to see it more in its original form. told from the African perspective, right? So there you have it. That's my little mini book haul, and I can't wait to share them when the time comes. Okay, guys, so next, let's get into the books that I read so far for the month of July. So far, I read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. I finished reading Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. And I read Bring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. And I have enjoyed them all so far. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful books. Now, I had mentioned Island Queen as well by Vanessa Riley. I'm in love. I am so in love with that book. And I want to talk first about that particular book before I talk about the rest of these books. Now, Island Queen. Woo! Man, let's talk about Dolly. Okay, so I'm gonna do this a bit differently. Okay, I'm gonna read you a little bit of my resume that I wrote when I finished reading the book Island Queen. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what the book is about, we follow Dolly. Dolly is this young girl who was born into slavery, and she is born to a planter named Kerwin. Her mom was black, her father was white, and Dolly is this brave young girl who was born in the 1700s, and she was always fierce from the moment we meet her. She was this young but had a fierceness about her that was already telling of her character. And she is of dark skin, although born of a white father. She has a young sister named Lizzie, and they live with their mom. And of course, the father is not there. At the beginning of the story, he's gone somewhere. So basically, we follow Dorothy from the time she is young to the time she is old. And in between, we have all the things she's accomplished as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a businesswoman, everything and in between. Now, before I give you more of it, let me read you a little bit so you understand how I perceived the story of Dolly. Dolly is a woman straight out of a fictional story. The way Vanessa Riley imagined this heroic and unapologetically fabulous and bold character had me obsessed. Dolly, from the time she was a kid until her old age, never stopped dreaming and researching and reaching for the stars. She showed traits of fearlessness and bravery in situations that would make any sane or normal person cower. She surmounted unspeakable situations that were meant to break her soul, yet she found a strength powerful enough to move mountains and push through to overcome her adversities. Not only was Dolly strong, brave, black, proud, and very much a woman, she is the epitome of what black women had to endure during the slavery times. During the 1700s, when the French and British armies sought to keep slavery alive, she fought to gain her freedom, as well as the freedom of her children, her manumission. She was unashamed to have many lovers, but instead loved fiercely. She was a woman on a mission, and she never stopped dreaming until she made sure that her legacy was cemented on those islands. A mother to 10 babies, all by various fathers, Dolly remained a true believer in her family, her love for Thomas, and her passion for building establishments that could house royalty. She is both admired and revered by some, but also hated and envied by many. One thing that I found remarkable was the fascination of Dolly's hair because she was black. The mention of fine hair was mentioned throughout the book like it was the most alien thing to see on a black person. As despicable was her brother because of what he did to Dolly and her sister, Dolly was able to accept and love unconditionally Lizzie, who was the product of that rape. Alright guys, so that was a little bit of my feelings when I thought of Dolly. And I want to talk a little bit about the subjects that are discussed in this book. You have subjects, of course, of slavery, abolition, you have mention of rape, you have passing in this book, you have the emancipation of blacks, you have war, you have religion between Anglicans and Catholics in this book, you have you discover islands such as the Marara, Grenada, all those islands in the Caribbean. You have subjects of royalty. I mean, this lady she went out with William, the prince back then. You have her as a businesswoman. You have a little bit of feminism in it because Dolly was very comfortable in her skin as a woman, and she did not apologize for her actions. Although she felt contrite for some of those actions, she never cowered from owning to what she had done and what she stood for, which I appreciated about her. So again, that's my overall take on the book of Island Queen. I want to mention a little bit about the fine hair and Dolly's fascination with hats. I love the way she talked about hats and how basically during those times black people couldn't wear hats, and when you wore hats for a colored woman, it meant you had status in society. You were not a slave, you were free. And she mentioned her love for those beautiful dresses. I'm more aware of her yellow dress with the hats and feathers. I love that about her. It was really, throughout the book, talked about her fine hair because she was this black girl looking like any African American girl, but with the fine hair. I think at some point in the book she does mention that it is because of the fact that she's the product of a white person. So that was one aspect of the book that I found I was annoyed by it, simply because that is also the obsession that black people have had since then until today. This whole thing that you have to straighten your hair, and it is the image of what beauty is, you know, fine hair, and imagine it even more on a black person. This is why I stand for this day. But then again, I believe there are these black people with fine hair. They do. I mean, because obviously of the mix that happened throughout the years of slavery and more after and beyond and before. So it's obviously understandable that you will see black people that are black but yet with fine hair. So that was one aspect of the book. The other aspect I wanted to talk about was my feelings that I had towards Dolly and her choice of men. Now, she spoke about being so black and proud of it, yet all her husband or men were white. Like, I was like, girl, what are we doing here wrong? You know, why can't we make black babies with black men? I don't get it. But I want to tell you this. I stand corrected in my feelings, because at some point in the book, I think it's the chapter titled My Lost Patience. I'm actually going to put an excerpt here. I'm going to put an excerpt here because I want you to listen and hear the response of Dolly, because at some point she does have a conversation about her choice of men with Fédon. Fédon is the brother of this man that wants to marry Charlotte, one of her daughter.
In a blink, I was on Pa's Dre, with Nicholas calling me girl. He done so out of hate and fear of me. This fool called me low in my house. Mr. Fédon, are you afraid of white planters? No, but they think us beneath them. I know women like you hit yourself to white stars and prostitute your souls to gain a sky of freedom, crowing as if their pasty hides mean status. Hell, you might just be at it for money. What's a few shillings for an honest hour of work? Well, Fédon, it's not often I'm called a prostitute to my face. Someone needs to enlighten you, White men are not prizes. They're scourges. They rape our women. They steal from our continents and mock our treasures and identity. Why do you wish to deal with a swine and take it to your bed?
Oh, by the way, she had 10 daughters. Oh, 10 kids. Let me see if I remember them. So, there is Lizzie, Charlotte, Frances, Henny, Eliza, Josephine, Harry, Edward, Katarina, and I'm missing one more kid. But she had 10 of them, and a few by one or two fathers, and some by the couple different fathers. But and one that was the result of rape. Two actually. Two of them was the result of rape from her brother, half brother. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so the response of the brother Fédon, of the brother of the man that wants to marry Charlotte, who's the daughter of Dolly, is absolutely epic. Her response is epic. And when she stood there and not defended herself or explained her reality, I was like, oh, okay, because I was mad. I was like, you're so proud of being black, but yet you're marrying all these white men, and none of them were colored. I'm sure she would have been able to find colored men, emancipated men, or colored free men, because Fédon was one of them. So, but no, all the men that she married somehow were white. There was Sales, there was Thomas, and there was the Prince William. I mean, this woman left her family, traveled in a boat with the prince, went all the way to London, went even to the ball. You can just imagine the shock of seeing all these white people and seeing this beautiful, exotic black woman on the hands of a prince. Like, wow. Can you believe it? And I was just like, Vanessa Riley, you have a very vivid imagination. Come to understand, or come to find out, that she said she's based on a true story. Dolly is actually real. So I was like, yes, this woman she's larger than life. I'm telling you, she's larger than life. Everything she accomplished, I mean, she did everything to set her family free. They call it manumission. Manumission? Honey, put the word here. And everything she did, from her mom to her sisters to her grandma to her kids. This girl knew about signing contracts, marital contracts, before sending her kids off to marry all these men, because all these men were after her riches, because she accumulated so much money through her businesses, especially one of them, which was having a business of maids. So she will hire out maids to all these wealthy planters, and that's how she made her money. And at some point, she also decided to build this grand establishment to welcome royalty. She had many adversities, many blockades, many people who were against her being that wealthy. But you know what? She was never defeated. That's what I love about Dolly. Like, she inspired me. I was there and I was like, I cannot believe this woman during that time had so much strength and so much willpower, so much defiance to do everything she did. I was like, I want to be her. Like, she was also a feminist. Like, at some point in one of the arguments, I believe again with the brother of the son-in-law, husband to Charlotte, she also has another argument where she talks about it, and she asks him, is your brother a virgin? Because he had something to say about, obviously, Dolly's previous ways, which were frowned upon. And he tried to link that to Charlotte. And Fédon, she asks him, plain and simple, is your brother a virgin? He's like, no. So why do you expect the same for my daughter? Or like, what gives you the position to judge? You know, it's absolutely amazing the way her mindset was already forward. And one other aspect I want to talk about is the way mixed family worked then. I discovered the word octoroon, quadroon, mulatto. It meant that, for example, where a planter, white planter, married a black slave woman, and they would have all these kids. Now, some of them would be black or brown or even white, and depending on how much black they had, because I guess some of those kids could marry maybe white or black, and then if you were, for example, 3/4 Griffin, Capra, that was in Guadeloupe and Martinique, and then you have 5/8 Marabout, you have 1.5 Mulatto, 1/4 Carteron, Métis, and then you had 1/8 Carteron, Métis. I mentioned this because at some point in the book, Dolly talks to Thomas, because Thomas wanted to be a father to all her children, regardless of the fact that they were not all his. And he wanted to just be a father to them. He didn't care who their fathers were. And I think she makes a comment about the word octoroon, family, and so on. And I was like, what's that? And I went to look it up, and then it just brought me to all this other world with all these terms that were used during slave times, and just such a mess. That was essentially the other aspect that I found interesting in the story of Dolly. And one other story, or one other aspect that I found interesting that was also mentioned throughout the book, is every time she had those kids, she had the I think postpartum, but they called it the sadness something. I know it had sadness in it, but it was basically postpartum. So every time she gave birth, she had that, and it was just strange because it was like, why don't you stop? Like, her mom knew how to brew all these herbs and stuff like that, but somehow our Dolly kept getting pregnant to like 10 children, and I believe 2 of them died. Was it 2 or 3? I know she lost her sister at some point in the story, and 2 of her kids, which was really hard. Thomas also dies at some point in the story. She went through quite a lot for someone, like for a person. She's lived through it all. I'm gonna conclude by talking about how she talks about slavery and how she's had nightmare about slavery, because whenever she would look on the left, it was like the sick house where people would be flogged and would be treated after the flogging and after the mistreatment from the planters. And she will always look on the right. She also talked about the fact that some black colored people owned slaves as well. They were denouncing what the white planters were doing, but they themselves owned slavery. So, owned slaves, I mean. There was a lot to uncover in this book. Love the writing. Riley absolutely did an amazing job with the story. I mean, the research that it must have taken for her to compile all of that information and do such an amazing story, I was like quite impressed. So there you have it, guys. That was my book review of Island Queen. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in part 2 of this video. Ciao.